Parents, and welcome. Today we have a really neat guest. His name is John Peak, and he is a personal protection coach. So he's going to give you some valuable information about personal protection, fitness, and ultimately life balance. He has over 35 years experience transforming lives through these things. He started out with personal protection and he moved through strengthening the body, mind, and spirit. He helps people understand that every area of our lives are connected. He helps specifically build the most important areas of our life, creating a remarkable transformation and confidence. He holds a third degree black belt in Krav Maga and is the founder of Haganah Global. He has also worked in the petrochemical business as an instrumentation and control specialist for 30 years. Today, John's going to talk about installing mental software for a new depth of confidence through personal protection, physical health, and guarding your inner circle. So John's going to help us understand the steps for true personal protection and the value it brings to everyone in your inner circle. Define 3 levels of physical health and how to make that reality in simple daily decisions, and bringing a whole new understanding to what your inner circle means. So please help me in welcoming John Peak. Hi, welcome parents. I'm so excited that you're here today because we have a really unique special guest. It is John Peak, and he is a personal protection coach. And John is passionate about personal protection and how different areas of your life, spirit, mind, and body, are affected by you knowing how to protect yourself. So today, John's going to share a lot of valuable content with you to make you aware of the importance of personal protection, not only for your team, but also for yourself. So John, when I was talking to John and to see if he would be interested in joining our summit, he said something to me that was very profound, and I wrote it down. So I'm going to read it here. It says, "There are things that influence but don't seem like it would build confidence." So there's these external things that in the busyness of our lives, we don't realize actually are influencers in our confidence. So I'm sure John's going to kind of speak more to that about kind of stepping back and making sure that we're aware of those things. And he's going to tell us things that we need to be aware of as well. So I want John to tell you a little bit about himself. And John, welcome. I'm excited that you're here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I see that you're in your beautiful studio there in Houston, Texas. And I wanted you to tell the parents, like, how'd you even get started in this, and a little bit about yourself and how personal protection has become so much of a passion for you.
Well, I tell you, it was coming from a place where I was really kind of beat down, honestly, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and I was just looking for a way to dig myself out of that. And so I had done a lot of different things that seemed to be disconnected. And the gap I had was this idea of, I was a young man, really still much of a teenager, and I was looking to become the man that I knew I wanted to be, but didn't know how to do that. So, be a grown-up with responsibilities, and can I handle that? There's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of lack of confidence around that. And so I pursued this idea of learning how to do martial arts. And so I went to all these different martial arts schools, and I was looking, and some look pretty good. They're like air conditioning, beautiful carpet, and the guys are all clean with their fancy uniform and belt. And, I was seeing some good things and not so good things, and then I came across this place that was no air conditioning, concrete floor. And these guys they're having to wipe the floor up with towels because the sweat's just pouring off of them. And there's, the doors are open. It's kind of a warehouse, and it's a Chinese Kung Fu school. And these guys are just amazing athletes. And so I joined up there to that brutality of suffering. And it's not like we beat each other up all the time, but we learned a lot. We learned a lot about ourselves, what we could do. And so what it ended up doing is I ended up, doing really good at that and traveling all over the country, competing and international competitions. And what it really did, though, is it developed a confidence in me that I didn't have before, of not only that I could do these physical things, but that I could overcome the mental pressures and hardships, right? So it developed what I call peripheral confidence that applies to everything I do.
Peripheral
so I've got
confidence.
about 30.
I love that.
Peripheral.
And so it's not just something that's the the confidence that's here, but it's the confidence that's surrounding us.
That's right. The confidence that we do. For example, people always come into our life and they can be good influences, mediocre influences, or poor influences, right? So gainers, maintainers, or drainers is what I like to call them, right? So some of them are mentors. They lift us up. If you have a couple good mentors in your life, you're really blessed. Many of them many people we're coming in contact with are maintainers. They're kind of the same kind of people, mentally healthy, have their life together, have similar desires in us. And then there can be the very detrimental drainer that's just there to drain the life out of me, direct me into the path that I want to go. And so we have to learn how to recognize who they are and who we are and what that relationship looks like. And so I allow drainers to come into my influence of my world, and I decide at some point pretty quickly if they're teachable, coachable, if I can bring them out of that and make them a maintainer, right? And if I can't, then if they're not going to do the work, I have to put them outside my inner circle. They can still be involved in some aspect of my life, but I have to be very careful who I let in my inner circle.
So John, you mentioned something about recognizing. So we're speaking to parents of teenagers. And so how could parents kind of coach their teens or approach their teens to recognize who fits in what category? How do they do that?
So their kids have already seen aspects of mentorship from their parents, from their coaches, from other teachers. So they need to identify those qualities in those kind of people so they understand what a mentor looks like. And then there's going to be people that they understand are maintainers. Other students, maybe a year or two older, that they see, oh man, these guys are doing what I want to do already. And they kind of take him into their wing, whether it's in band or sports or drama or science, in whatever category that the student really likes to foster his growth in, or his or her growth in, that they are really around similar people. And they need to understand those are the kind of people we call maintainers. And we need to attach them. Those kind of people need to be in the bulk of our inner group, our inner circle. Right. And so give them a definition of people they already recognize as mentors, as maintainers. Right. And then the drainer, I guarantee they've already experienced this as teenagers.
Yes.
People that have led them the wrong way. And the parents oftentimes will know the names of a person they consider a drainer, but they didn't really use that verbiage. As a drainer, it's a bad influence is what they said, right? So they need to really understand that they are a drainer. At least right now in their life, they're in a place where they're not good for your child. And so really helping to identify and name those things and learn to what we don't like to do is really, it's politically incorrect these days, and that is to profile. Right. I know it's frowned upon to stereotype, and I don't mean it in a negative, racist, sexist, way, but I mean, we need to understand who the people around us are. Are they good for us or they're not so good for us? Right. So the gainer, maintainer, and drainer needs to be identified and really given a name that can mean something to the teen.
And I will say also, just kind of to expound on that, John, is that I noticed just in my practice as a life coach for teenagers that the drainers can also be virtual people within social media that they're connecting to that they don't really know, but are the drainers, the poor influencers that are not providing value. So not only people at school or within their periphery that they see, but also within the social platforms, those people can drain.
That's right.
As well.
You can think of it this way. It doesn't matter where they are in reference. It matters how much time you're spending with being influenced by them in any format, whether it's at church or at a football game or online or gaming online, which I know a lot of teenagers are doing the gaming online. Where are you spending your time and who are these people to you?
Right. And parents, it's interesting because I've talked to other experts that are on here with us, and they say that it's unfortunate that those teen years are kind of these lost years in terms of parenting. We think we're raising those kids to be independent. And so in light of wanting to do that, we go, once they kind of hit that those high school years, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, we back off in terms of we just let them eat whatever they want to eat and go wherever they want to go. And, oh, we don't want to like disturb them in the room when they're doing, so there's a balance there. But I think that parents, I see this a lot, that they're too hands off. They're not as informed as they need to be. So it's important to bridge that communication. So what have you seen in terms of what you do, how to bridge that communication and where that meets maybe with even with confidence in the parents and what they're saying, or confidence in themselves?
Great question. And that's really about the application of sharing the knowledge and influence. So my experience comes from two sides, like all of us ours do, and that is personal experience. I've raised 3 teenagers, and I think, and my wife would agree, that our teenagers needed more micromanagement than they did when they were in elementary school.
Yes.
And I say that because the consequences of their actions are much more serious when they make mistakes as a teenager preparing for college and in the real world. And
Right.
so I think it's better to share your personal experiences of what's happened to you and what you've seen happen to other people with your teens that can drive home the point you're trying to make on the gainers, maintainers, and drainers, or any other point you're trying to make. If you're really selling an authentic story, we all love to hear stories, whether they're about ourselves or other people. And many times as parents, we're reluctant to share our failings, our personal stories that don't put us in a good light. And so we don't tell our kids some of the big pitfalls that they really could benefit from. When you share a personal experience and you're more transparent with your teen, they sometimes can be very shocked, or they can say, you know what, that's not going to happen to me. It may happen to you, but it's not going to happen to me. That was my experience with the teenagers of my own, as well as all the students that I've trained, especially the kids and teenagers. For some reason, we as people want to think that that's what happened to you. I understand happened to you, but that's not going to happen to me because I'm different. So if we give them our own personal experience and we share experiences of people we know personally, that, you know, these things happened to them and they didn't think it was going to happen to them. I didn't think it was going to happen to me. So we make it personal. I think that's the best way. Instead of just telling what to do and not to do, share experience that actually happened, real world experiences.
I call it owning your stuff. Owning your stuff. And I know that in my years of mentoring experience for years, and also in life coaching, that the more personal I am and the more authentic I am, the more transformation can occur within the people that I'm working with, because they see that it's real, that people can make it through something, and that adults have these deep feelings and hurts and challenges and fears that they have now. Either now they do, or beside. I always tell the teens, I said, don't think I'm not going through something similar of what you're going through now, even on a little bit different level, but we're all working to improve ourselves. We're all tweaking ourselves a little bit. Not that we need to be fixed, we're just tweaking. And so with parents, I don't think that they understand that their kids actually, I see this because kids, you know, and with the teenagers that you're working with, they tell you a lot of things because you're their safe space, things that they won't tell their parents. And if the parents knew that just sharing your stuff with them, it makes them respect you more, listen to you more. It puts you in a different light. Like, wow, Dad did this. I mean, we don't have to tell them everything, but I mean, there's certain things that just like, yeah, I struggle with this, or yeah, I was afraid of this, or I used to have anxiety and this has had stomach aches or whatever. They're like, wow, you, Mom? It's like, yeah, I did. Well, how did you do that? That opens up that conversation. So really, like you, I would encourage parents, just share, because telling does not work with a teenager. Like you said, that's the time we need to micromanage more. And what's the first thing teenagers say? Don't tell me what to do. Don't micromanage me. So I want to kind of move into this personal protection, because what you're bringing to us today is like how that is almost like an umbrella that affect lots of other things on a very positive level in a teen's life. So can you speak more to that?
So the personal protection I'm talking about is defending ourselves against any kind of threat, whether it's a car pulling out in front of us, right? Whether it's a bully at school that's trying to dominate my circle of friends, whether it's an opposite sex that's trying to distract me. And we don't sometimes think of those as personal threats, but they're very real personal threats.
Mm-hmm.
They're personal threats from reaching your goals and to maintaining a healthy body, mind, and spirit. So the personal protection as it belongs in the physical world, it's very applicable right now with all the civil unrest and what's going around in our country and just the unknown. And so going to the grocery store, leaving your home, getting in the car, what I call going through transitional spaces, home to the car to a building, building to the car, and so forth. And so we want to have an understanding first of awareness. And then by learning a little bit about personal protection, you immediately become more aware of your surroundings. And that's the thing that carries with you no matter how the depth of your training. So we can take you from never doing anything to literally special forces level training. But not everybody wants to do that, right? At those levels and put in that time. But with just a short time spent doing some personal protection, the teenagers start to feel an understanding of, first of all, to avoid the personal threats, right? Being smart about their decision making. And even within the force on force type of threats where I have to use physical force to defend against physical force, it's really about installing software. So the nomenclature of a course that, say, a Navy SEAL will go through is force on force training. And then the subtitle of that is critical decision makings under pressure. So they're learning how to make critical decisions when it counts most and there's the most pressure on them. And so they'll train maybe 10,000 hours before they ever be sent on a mission. They've already got PTSD from the training itself, right? Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to introduce the teens to this understanding of there are real threats out there to your life and your happiness. And we're going to do that through the vehicle of personal protection. But all along the way, we're going to be talking about real world threats in relationships, in jobs, in transitioning from group to group, right? In terms of social media or gaming or, whatever the influence might be, there's going to be a common thread that's woven throughout there. And because of the personal protection, it can be very real in terms of your physical ability, your understanding, it starts to build this confidence that permeates the way you think.
Yes.
You learn to say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. And we'll give lots of good examples and personal experiences. And I can share my deepest personal experiences that are appropriate, obviously, for the teen, so that they get it from me and not having to look at their parents. Their parents may feel, in fact, I've shared things that my wife wouldn't share about my personal experience. She just didn't feel comfortable doing that. But I don't have any problem doing that, right?
Yeah,
I do it at the appropriate time in their life, the appropriate age, the appropriate type of story, so that I make an impact. And that's really the bottom line. It's not about me. It's about my team. What impact am I making in their life?
Absolutely. And so I love the word permeates, because it's not, personal protection is not just in this little microcosm. It's when you know that you can protect yourself against one thing, then wow, then I can probably protect myself against this thing and this thing, all kinds of things. So that's important to have that kind of, I call it imprinted so they know. And there's something even from the physical standpoint about, and I think this is male and female, and you can kind of speak to the female also. I'd like for you to speak to that. Teenage girls, and maybe clients that you've had, they're teenage girls, is being physically strong. Like physically strong to where you can just pick up something heavier, or you just feel more that you're able to stand up taller, and you're stronger in your core, and it helps. There's just something physiological about it. I know that when I'm more muscular, I feel stronger, and then when I feel stronger, I feel like I can do other things that have nothing to do with physical, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's very true. A lot of times we look at the external. In the programming in our society is, don't be superficial, don't be so vain. And so there's one side with the gym rat, and there's other side, with the introvert and the artist, so it's kind of like the balancing act. And so we want to have the art of living well is all about balance. And so physical strength and mobility and range of motion is very connected to who we feel our confidence, who kind of defines a little bit of a piece of us. And so when, like you said, when you're strong, it can come out in the strangest ways, whether it's carrying, books, or carrying furniture, or carrying food. You don't feel like, oh, I'm in danger of hurting my knees climbing these stairs, or hurting my back picking it up. But in the personal protection world, that's inherently part of the development, right? So you become not only a mental strength, an emotional strength, and as well as a physical strength. So that's the idea, connecting all the dots. And of course, for me personally, there's also a spiritual dynamic that is part of that foundation. And we can address that as the students have a desire. It can be something as simple as, I'm going to send them a document that they can read and start to help them to understand the connection there. Right. But everything we do will give them support, video tutorial support, documented support, written support. And we do personal coaching as well, whether it's personal protection or physical attributes, or just the life coaching where we're giving them mental skills. So it can be done in a packaged way that gives the team the ability to make good decisions in a variety of circumstances. Mm-hmm. And we always hit the most important things, right? So personal security, but physically, mental, emotional security, which a lot of times is based on relationships. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to get sidetracked into a relationship that is detrimental to. Absolutely. For example, the teenager feels, well, I love them. I felt this compassion. I really love them. Well, it totally short circuits the brain to get that kind of emotional involvement as a teenager, and you start not realizing that you're being influenced in a way that's pulling you away from your goals. Now, it's not that we discourage complete isolation from the emotional attachment to another human being, but we do need to put that into context and understand the impact of that decision.
Yes, and I like that you were talking about foundational, because parents right now, whether they have 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grader, they're building foundations in other areas that are like really obvious, like the academic resume to go to college, right? That's obvious. And there's a lot of research out there, or resources and tangible. So they get the whole idea of the foundation. But there are areas like with what you're talking about, and what I work with also as a health coach with the teens, is that the health aspect, physical aspect, the protection aspect, those are things that I see that maybe parents haven't thought about in terms of incorporating into that foundation. Like if you've got the cement and you're mixing the foundation, for your teen, they're not pouring things like that in there that I'm seeing from my experience as a professional as much. And so what you're saying is that with personal protection and protecting yourself from threats, all kinds of threats, and is a very important part of that foundation that parents want to work on before their kids leave the nest.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a good way to put it. You're building a foundation and adding the ingredients to have a strong structure on top of the foundation. And so I like to call it the living triangle. And many times it depends on who I'm talking to. I call it the training triangle. Okay. Train right, eat right, sleep right. Right? It's like 3 sides of a triangle, kind of like a fire triangle, where you need the fuel, you need the oxygen, you need the spark. And you remove any one of those things and the fire goes out, right? And that's the goal, to control fire. The living triangle, the training triangle, training right, eating right, sleeping right, remove any one of those or degrade it, and your quality of life goes down. So the middle of the triangle is all about quality of life. And so eating and sleeping is really about eating and sleeping. Quantity of food, quality of food, timing of food. The way you train is really about how you live, the decisions you make, how you keep your schedule, the commitments and responsibilities that you've set up. And when you break a commitment, you renegotiate to make that commitment new, so it's not just an unspoken, broken communication, right? Mm-hmm. And then the sleeping is really about sleeping, not doing things in your life that don't let you sleep well. That's like eating bad foods or pumping your body full of poison, sugars, and caffeine, and so forth. That will affect how you live and think, the food you desire next, and how you sleep. So everything becomes connected to everything else, moment by moment even.
And your mental clarity and focus. That's what I tell my teenagers. I'm like,
that's right.
You have to be hydrated. Hydrate your brain, especially before you're getting ready to go take an exam. Or if you're in a stressful situation, that suppresses your immune system. So make sure you're not eating sugar, which jacks with your immune system too, and can cause you to be on this roller coaster. So you're absolutely right. They have to have all 3 areas of this. So can you name those 3 three areas again for us, John.
Yeah, the training triangle, the living triangle is live right, eat right, sleep right.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Live right, eat right, sleep right. So many times as a training triangle, as a physical fitness personal protection coach, I talk about it as training right. And you are training to live. You're training your mind how to think and controlling your emotion, your intellect, so that you can drive this quality of life and this balance, this elusive balance, right? And so the eating and sleeping is a fundamental foundation for that, so you can think right, so your biorhythms are smoothed out, you're not swinging all over the place. Your blood sugar stays at the right level. So, you know, some of these things we know as adults, as parents, coaching our team, sometimes we're not living them, and they see that demonstration too in their home. With look in the cabinet, you can tell where a person's at, right? I always say, look at a person's checkbook or the bank statement, and I can tell what they care to be important, what they place as important is where they spend their money, right? So when I look at a person's cabinet or refrigerator, I can see right away where their health level is, what they consider to be healthy. Not that we can't deviate, you know, with ice cream or some snack or food.
That's right.
As a basis, fundamental intake, we want to make sure whether it's body, mind, or spirit, we're putting the good things in on a regular basis.
Yes, and sometimes I'm a little bit of the heavy in that situation, and I say, well, and I don't tell the parents this, but I'll tell these parents this: if you don't buy it, they can't eat it.
Exactly.
And that goes for, I know that even just in my own household, there was a few years ago I just like to bake, and sometimes I'll just bake and I won't eat it or anything. And so seemed like I went through a phase where I was baking cookies like once a week or something like that. You know, they smell good, they taste good and all of that. And so my husband would be, you know, it's hard to eat just one cookie. So he would eating the cookies. And then all of a sudden he said, I really need you not to bake cookies all the time. And so it made me step back and think about that. If I don't buy it, if I don't have the ingredients, it's not here for him to eat, to tempt him or even myself. So the same thing goes with, and kids, you know, they're, depending on their school situation, but, you know, they're at school, so they're going to eat whatever lunch they want to eat, or if they go out with your friends or something like that. But at least in the home, you can have the proper modeling. And what does that help? That helps not only the teenager, and exactly what you're talking about, the others you're talking about too, parents, this is for you too. This is not just for teenager. These are areas in your life that you can model for your teenagers. Easier said than done, right? But that's important. So John, I want you to, I'll always have dogs barking or a grandchild or something. Is your puppy? Can you bring your puppy here?
Yeah, I have a client. It's a customer at the door. Here, Tux. Here, right here.
Is that your personal protection guard dog?
It is. Yeah, he's a big bad boy.
I love it. Yeah, sure.
Come here. All right, I'm back.
Okay. All right. So I want you to walk us through, John, what it looks like starting out with like a teenager. A teenage boy or girl, what does that feel like? I mean, what does that look like when they come in and they're like, they've never done anything like this before? What should they expect kind of in that initial phase of figuring out what this is and how it's going to work for them and the benefits?
Yeah, so the first thing we do is kind of get related and build the relationship, building trust, building clarity, building understanding. Who am I? Let me ask some questions about what they're doing, what they think, how they feel about certain things, school and, you know, their extracurricular activities, how much time, you know, they're spending away from home and what are they doing? So I just kind of get a little personal and build kind of an understanding of where we both are. Then I'll share some personal experiences of where I was and how the steps I got to where I am now. And, you know, over 35 years. And I can tell them, listen, you can get to that place. And instead of taking 35 years, we can do this over months in the big picture of understanding. And then we can do it longer term, depending on how your desire to grow in these areas, to your own desire, right? But I can take you, I'm telling you, don't have to take 35 years to get where I am. I can give you much clearer instruction to get you there fast, much faster. So you have this bigger protection, not just protection, but this bigger understanding of how do I live my life at the highest levels without feeling like I'm under so much pressure to perform.
So is this
because you'll want to do it?
Is this something that you're doing here with your business, and is this a different model? I know you've been in different things, and is this a different model where you're into spirit, mind, body, and you're really taking on a mentor role in addition to just, oh, I'm just going to show someone the technique, right? Is this a different model that you have here?
Yeah, it is a different model than typical martial arts school. Like I have a facility here in Houston, Texas, in Webster, not far from NASA, where we really focus on physical protection, physical education, nutrition, and so forth, right? But my clients that want to know me more personally, they start asking questions oftentimes, and they really kind of tell on themselves. They have a desire to go down in this road a little more, and then I'll just show them. I said, listen, I can show you some things about that very simply. And then we'll have this conversation, and I'll tell them, I said, you can enroll in a plan to do this very strategically and purposefully if you would like to. Do you see the value in that? And then almost all the time, they're like, yes, I do see the value. And then we had to just work out the details of it for their schedule, for their budget, and so forth. And I always can make it work at any level they want to choose.
Right. So it's very custom.
It's very customized.
And I get that in my coaching practice. It's like you just meet them where they're at and say,
That's
where
right.
do you want to go? Okay, we're going to make a plan, and I'm going to take you there because it's all about them.
That's right. It's all about them.
Not about us. It's all about them. So, but we do have something that's all about them also, is for the parents. And you are offering something free to the parents, and it is a free video tutorial that you have. So
right, exactly.
Can you tell us about that? And I'll put the link, parents, excuse me, just saying, parents, everything that John and I are talking about, how to contact him, how to get this free gift that he's offering for you, any other resources are all going to be linked. So don't worry about that. You're going to have access to that. So go ahead, John. I'm sorry. So
yeah, no, perfect. So that's exactly right. The video tutorial can come in many forms, but the free video tutorial I'm going to give you just because you came to this and watched this is I'm going to kind of explain very briefly the benefits of showing you the movements and you having this understanding of, oh, if this happens, I do this. If that happens, I do this, And so I give you a procedure to think from. And so immediately your eyes are going to be open to, oh, so it's not so complicated. So I'm going to kind of take this art of personal protection, physical fitness, and emotional strength and make it less like chess and more like checkers.
Oh, I love that. And this is actually something, it would be kind of neat for the parent to be able to watch the tutorial with their team.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And or they can do it independently. No matter what, it's still available really for the whole family. So
exactly.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Okay. And you have, I think you mentioned when we were talking offline, is you actually have a new series that you're rolling out. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the new coaching series will be a virtual platform because of the disconnection that's going on across the world with the COVID-19. And that is the ability to plug into a program where you can learn wherever you are in the world about personal protection, about physical fitness, about nutrition, and then this idea of protecting your inner circle, body, mind, and spirit. So we want to build up kind of the big picture, and we're going to micromanage by doing isolation training. And we're going to build up the individual categories so it ultimately you have a new confidence that you never had before that's going to permeate every aspect of life. So we don't want you to be timid and afraid, and we don't want you to be cocky and arrogant. We want you to be high quality, authentically confident in what you are and where you're going.
And they can learn this from the privacy of their own home.
That's right. That's the beauty of it. So we want to be able to reach them right where they're at. They don't have to drive or fly. I had to fly all over the world literally to assemble all this type of information and training at the highest levels. So they can learn it right out of their home at a very low cost as well.
Oh, that's incredible. And I'll put that link for them as well. So
and there's another aspect of that too, Renee, is when they make contact with me, if they can't do it with me, we're going to try to direct them to the subject matter that they can search out somebody in their own area so that they don't miss out on this ability to grow. So it's all about them growing. We're not going to sell them a package. We're going to help them to grow as individuals wherever they are.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So we want to challenge the parents. That's important because all of our experts like you who are joining us on this summit, they're all information is just information if you don't put it into action. So we want to challenge parents to do something within the next 24 to 48 hours that is going to, I like to call it, move the needle for their teen, even a quick win. What would you want to challenge the parents to do right after they've watched this?
Gotcha. So the one thing I would challenge them to do is to start moving more. Find a way to move more. Go for a walk. Go get on a bicycle. Join a group. Go swimming. Get a gym membership that's low cost that you don't have to break the bank for. But you can certainly just exercise anywhere you could go to the mall to walk, so it's air conditioned. You can stay in your own home and put on a video on YouTube. Yes. So movement, I think, is key because it's going to really help to oxygenate your blood and get your mind flowing more freely as well. The other thing I would challenge you to do is look up some form of personal protection that has real world application, not necessarily a competition environment like, you see going on in martial art world, but something that applies to their everyday life. And so a kind of a realistic self-defense program, I think, would be really great.
And for their teens and maybe even for themselves too, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So being authentic here, I want to bring up something that you said, and this is really just from on a personal note, is that during this time of the virus that we've had, that you've also had it, and I know that you are very mindful of your health, what you eat, and all of that. And could you just tell the parents like what you did to help yourself recover from that, and maybe give them some ideas on, what you need to do prior to, during, and after, just in case. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. So one of the things I try to do is always keep my immune system strong. The training triangle for myself. I had to follow my own advice, right? I had to make it real to me as well. And I did all those things, and I still got the virus. And so the reason I got the virus, because I was exposed to people because I'm a teacher. And so even as life went on, I was teaching even just one person. And I taught this one person that he didn't know he had the virus. He no symptoms, asymptomatic. And so I was exposed to him. And then the testing took a little long for him to get it. He didn't know what was going on. He got tested, then he had it. But there's 5 days gone by.
Wow.
So I suffered through I got it as a birthday present. I really got the symptoms on my birthday, right? So that day I started feeling pretty poorly, and I managed the terrible headaches and body aches with just Tylenol and Advil combo. Not super high levels, but the combo really helped to do it. And so I worked through eating, and even though I couldn't taste or smell, I made sure I took in the right liquids and the right food, and I actually tracked them. I have an app, MyFitnessPal, and I use that app to monitor my intake. And I also wrote things down, right? I have a note section on my phone, make it very easy. The phone is always in my possession. So I'm using that phone to document things and record things. So it's not a mystery. I'm not just guessing. Right. And so I did that also with my phone and started getting on there and researching the right doctors that are treating that I can get a hold of that will give me the right medicines. Because it's not all that hard to do. I've always said, if when you get hurt or get sick, you need to help the health professional, the doctors and nurses help you. Yes. Help them to help you. Take responsibility and being your own advocate. Right. And so I did that, and I found a doctor that would treat me, and I did a telemedicine exam over the phone from the comfort of my own home, and they gave me the prescription that I thought I was looking for, and they tweaked it and educated me a little bit, but we were heading in the right direction to begin with, talking to the right doctor. Yes. And they sent it to my local pharmacy, and I started taking the medicine, and I had the breathing treatments with a nebulizer and a couple other medicines they suggested, and I started getting better immediately. Wow. Right. So I was only out for really literally like 14 days. And so I was back to work, and then there's a recovery process because it just doesn't go away right away, especially for what I do. So every time I trained and exercised, I felt lower. So somebody asked me, like you asked me today, how you feeling? I said, well, it depends on what time of the day you asked me and what I did that day. Right. So I always make sure that I'm getting the right amount of rest, keeping the food and liquids coming, and understanding that the body is stressed because of the virus. And so I'm making paying extra special detail to rest, especially the rest. Yes. So I sit down and do nothing. And usually that means I'm putting my feet back, I'm leaning back in my recliner, and I'm actually planning a schedule. So that reduces my stress because I can put it aside. Once I plan my schedule and taking care of my businesses, I can put those aside. Now I can do something for me that's music. And so I can put on some music and really relax and rest genuinely. I won't put on a high adventure action movie, for example, if I want to rest. That doesn't help me rest, right? So I really want to focus on resting. So I'm doing that more to help the recovery process.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I know that that's just in the back of the mind of lots of people, or even in the forefront of the mind, right?
Absolutely.
And so thanks for indulging me and sharing that with us.
Yeah, I'm actually I actually send out text of the right person to contact, what the list of treatment medicines are. And so I have a lot of people asking for that information. So I'm sending that out to people as well. It's a quick list of here's how you recover from COVID. And it's not just my personal experience. It's hundreds and hundreds of people that have used this same methodology.
Wow. I want that. You have my number. I want that. Okay, John, thank you so much for being here today. And this has been great insight into really what personal protection is on a much broader level than I ever understood, and I'm sure the parents as well, how important it is, how it affects so many different areas of a life. And it's important to build that foundation wherever your teen is, even if they're getting ready to be a senior, to start imprinting those things into them to build their confidence, their in their mental health, their physical health, their spiritual health.
That's
so right. Again, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And I just appreciate what you're doing in your community. And I'm so excited that you're actually expanding out and bringing it virtually to whoever wants to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's my privilege. I feel blessed to be able to do it. And I'm excited about making a difference in people's lives for sure.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.